and they've cut holes in the jungle and burned all the trees around where the ocellated turkeys like to roost, and planted like the most beautiful, luscious clover plot that you've ever seen in the middle of the Mexican jungle. It's kind of crazy.
This podcast is brought to you by Creekside Wildlife, specializing in food plotting and habitat management for deer and turkey hunting. If you're ready to get started on improving your property to hold more game, then it's time to contact Creekside Wildlife. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Creekside Wildlife. All right, we're back. Episode 4.
Here we go.
We're still stuck on turkeys.
That's where it's all about.
Yeah. Everyone listening better get used to turkeys. So at least for the next 2 months, we're going to be pretty much full tilt on turkey hunting. So I saw that flock on the way here again.
Were they over there?
Over the mountain.
No kidding.
There's got to be 50 in that flock.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Those birds I saw yesterday, I'm telling you, they came across the road, and when they were trotting down through the field, their beard would go left and right. I could see it on either side of them, and I'm like, oh, boy, you're going to be in trouble.
Remember the ones I sent you the picture of yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, you know where they were?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they showed up on my cell cams this morning. And the only reason I know is because the one has half of his beard, like, frozen off or something.
Oh, yeah?
So he's got, like, a full 10-inch beard lengthwise, but, like, only half of it's, 10 inches. The other half's, like, 4 inches. So, I sent that to my dad. He said, that one's my bird.
I was going to say, he's getting fired up too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was out listening yesterday morning. So,
nice.
Yeah, I got the camera in the truck today. I was hoping to get out and get some pictures here in the next, couple days, couple weeks or whatever. So I'd like it to be a little bit nicer, maybe some of this snow melt, but it's still early, so.
Yep. Yeah, I was cooking yesterday and I looked out the window and it's snowing. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, what is this stuff?
So much for spring forward.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was like, Wednesday looks like sunshine, but it's 42 and sunny. But
I think Thursday's 54, isn't it?
Yep, Thursday 54. Yeah, it can get warm and stay warm anytime now.
Yeah, for sure.
Winters, I'm done with it.
Yeah. 25 days and I'll be turkey hunting.
Oh, you're counting.
That just hit me today, and
I
was like, oh, yeah, for sure. I've been counting since, I think Chase had a countdown at like 82 days or something like that.
Nice.
So, yeah, I looked at the calendar today, and I was like, holy smokes, I got a lot to do. I still got stuff laying everywhere. I got to
look around here. Stuff laying everywhere.
I don't even have a gun right now. It's still
one over there
somewhere in Kentucky, so I might have to borrow yours. But
it's hanging there, man. Take it with you.
I did hear from the guy that should be back from the Cerakote factory there on Friday, I believe. So
sweet.
I'll be anxious to get shooting with that. But so now I've just been shooting with the camera, I guess. So speaking of, we have our first guest today.
All right.
We're gonna jump on here with one of my good friends I met a couple years back, Tyler Breen. He is just a turkey filming, turkey killing machine. So let's just jump right into it. Let's get him on the phone.
Let's do it.
All right. Can you hear us there, Tyler?
Yes, sir.
All right. What you been up to, buddy?
Making turkey calls, packing turkey call orders, editing footage from last year's turkey season, getting private labels for some of the other brands we make turkey calls for, getting that done, making a plan for this spring about where we're going to go and where we're not going to go.
So basically everything you could think of in the turkey world.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
What about you guys? What have you guys been doing?
About the same. Yeah, we're just looking for anything and everything we can do to fill the next couple months, or I guess couple weeks here till we can start hunting. So.
Yep, down in Pennsylvania, right? You guys are out of Pennsylvania?
Yep, we're both in Pennsylvania here. We're sitting in our secondary studio, which is
AKA my house.
Yeah.
So for the moment, the kids aren't here, so we have peace for a little while. So we're taking advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's it.
If you might hear dogs barking or kids yelling, but that's part of the game. So
same thing here. We got 3 shot beagles and a Pomeranian. So somebody pulls in the driveway or even goes down the road, they go off the charts, man.
Sounds like a heck of a security team you guys got.
Well, it started out as one fat, lazy beagle, and then it slowly evolved from there.
Nice.
And it was just 3 for a while. Now it's 4, but
yeah. All right. Well, so I was telling Micah, me and you met. When was the first time we met? I guess back at the Bearded Buck for one of them turkey events that we did. And I don't know if I ever told this part of the story to you, but I was just sitting there after a hunt one day, and I knew this kid was in filming for another one of the crews, and he's just been on this computer like nonstop. And I'm like, I'm gonna go over and talk to him. Like, he hasn't said anything to anybody, and make sure he doesn't hate us for whatever. And he's just over there on the computer editing. And I sat down and started BSing with him, and he was editing this one picture. I can't even remember whether it was a duck or a turkey or what, but he spent like over a half an hour editing this one picture, and I was just like shocked at the time. I was like, man, this is awesome. And so I sort of watched a little bit, and ever since then, I guess I've been fangirling over Tyler's photography and stuff. So, but yeah, we just wanted to pick your brain a little bit. You guys get a ton of turkeys on film every year, and the last couple of years we've all been following your YouTube show and stuff, and you're putting out some awesome stuff. So we just wanted to pick your brain a little bit and see what you have to say about people getting into turkey filming or just turkey hunting in general, and just talk some turkey with you guys.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was I don't even know. It had to be probably 8 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and I think I had just left working for Zinc and AVNX at that point. And so I think that had to be right around like and it probably wasn't that long ago. It was probably more like 5 to 6 years ago, because I left there in 2018. And I was probably doing some heavy duty Photoshop on something. I don't know if it was for a client or if it was for myself personally, but I've been filming turkey. I'm 29 now. I'm just about to turn 30 in April, but I've been filming turkey hunts for the last probably 10 years. And the first one I ever filmed where somebody killed something, turkey hunt wise, was I kind of faked it until I made it, so to speak. I'd filmed a lot of waterfowl stuff, but I got an opportunity to go and freelance for Zinc when I was, I think I was a junior in college that spring, right after classes got out, and I went with Josh Grossenbacher to Alabama, to Terrence Williamson's place there. And I filmed him. We hunted for probably 4 or 5 days until he finally called this gobbler off the roost, and he shot it. And so that was the first turkey I filmed. It took us about a week to get it done. And then after that, it just kind of started steadily rolling. And I got the camera setups dialed in from Jeff Fafa Shelby, who was working there, all the lenses they were using, and kind of the system that they had down for getting high quality audio and all that. And I've kind of taken that system and adapted it to me and how I hunt, and how my business partner hunts, and kind of how we can get more done with less. And so you're not toting a ton of stuff through the woods, and kind of we've adapted our hunting in and along the filming part of it so that they both kind of run congruent with each other. And that's resulted in what you see now on YouTube or Facebook under the Cartel Custom Calls pages, which would be our series BangLand that we put out every spring. And to make those episodes, there's probably about anywhere from 10 to 20 of them that end up going out. We probably kill 60 to 70 on film in the process for each one of those seasons. And we just kind of hand select the best ones to put out there, and we use the rest of the content for Reels, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, just generalized marketing content to try to build all the pages, which is a daunting task when you're a small business.
Yeah, absolutely.
But shooting everything, that's really what we built the call business on. Was we'd been filming so many turkey hunts together, and we'd been traveling so much filming them that we needed a way to monetize that, and building a YouTube just wasn't going to happen between the two of us. So you weren't going to monetize that. And so we needed another way to do it. And we decided that making calls, because we've been doing that on the side too, was the way to kind of marry everything together. And so over the last 4 years, we've been slowly developing that into what you see today, which it has gotten to become a pretty well greased wheel. And, it's a mainly direct consumer business. We are in a couple small retailers, mom and pop retail stores here and there, but it's mainly direct to consumer. And we're, using the marketing, the turkey film to sell the calls. So that's pretty important backstory on how and why I'm still filming turkey hunts. But yeah, I can still remember back to that day. I don't even think we killed a turkey. I was there with Nick and Tom they were filming The Life. Now it's Become One is the name of their show. And you were editing and filming the Bearded Buck show. And yeah, I was just kind of got invited down there and went down to hang out because it was before our season opened. But I still got hunts from that season that are on a hard drive somewhere that me and Trent filmed together up in the Northeast here. But what did you want to, I got to look at your list here, but I know you wanted to talk about camera setups. All right.
We got the list here, so we'll just fire off some stuff to you.
You said that you departed from AVNX and those guys years ago. But what back in the day, what was the spark? What drove you into the videography, the wildlife, the photography, if you will? What was the opening? What was the first thing? Like where did it begin, or I guess how did it?
I think where it all started was Trent was living in his buddy's hunting cabin about 40 minutes south of where I live. And I had met him. His son was just born. I met him through a mutual friend of ours. And we went turkey hunting that morning. And I think our buddy ended up killing a Jake. And I went down there because I had been kind of playing around with my DSLR. I had like a Nikon D7000 or D5000 or something. I can't even remember. It was just a DSLR, and I wanted to start trying to film stuff. And I had kind of gotten the spark from waterfowl, from watching guys like Jeff Coates with D3 TV. Used to have a DVD that he put out, and kind of watching the Destination X and the Zinc Calls era DVDs. That was really what kind of sparked me into doing that stuff. But I didn't really want to pursue it any further than just something to do for fun until I started hanging out with Trent more after that day. And every time I'd run into some sort of situation in the woods, we'd be sitting around. We can only hunt till noon, so we'd be sitting around at the house, and he'd pull out. He has like the world's largest hunting DVD and VHS collection that you could ever imagine. He'd pull out the VHS or the DVD, pull out like HS Cutting and Strutting 7 or something, and rewind it and fast forward and find the hunt where Matt Murat or Rick White or something was calling this turkey in the junkyard in Iowa, and it hung up, and what they did to kill it, and how it applied to my life. It was like going to an AA meeting. I was having an intervention, and I was like, man, I started watching it, and he show me where those guys are now, and I'd be like, man, like a lot of these guys started out filming, and then they kind of like found their way through the industry. And I was going to college, so I wanted to be a doctor. It was the end goal, and I just kind of found that a lot more interesting. I started running a camera and manual photographing ducks on the lake here the year that everything froze over, and I started getting really good at that and driving around and finding wildlife to photograph. That was really what I liked, was photographing wildlife. And that transitioned pretty quickly. Once I got good at that, well, people recognized that. And I was really good at using Facebook as a networking tool. And that's where I would post a lot of the photos I took. And I would ask guys, I would go out, in Messenger, which is like, I was young. So I guess I didn't really have any barriers or walls or like these, I thought somebody was going to think something of me or they were going to feel this way about me because I reached out and I asked this person. There was no ego involved because I was just a kid, so I'd like ask Jeff Coates, like, hey, I would like send him a message. I'd be like, hey, man, um, can I drive down to Maryland and can you show me how you're taking pictures of these canvasbacks or where you're taking pictures of these canvasbacks? And he'd be like, yeah, because I was young and he wanted to share that with me, and then I would go do it, which was the even bigger step, is like going and actually doing that stuff and taking advantage of what the people around me that I looked up to had to offer me. I think that was the biggest step in what I was doing and how I got better. And then I'd ask them questions. Like I'd ask Jeff Coates, like, how do you run your camera? And he was like, I can still remember he told me he ran an aperture priority and almost fell out of my truck with the doors closed because I was like, oh, you're not shooting at all in manual, and like different things, how different. I had a local guy here, his name's Colin Clement. He was very inspirational and a very big part of where I came from. And he was the first guy that was like telling me to shoot in RAW and telling me to shoot in manual. And like, he never pushed me. He just told me I should be doing that. And I always laughed at him. And I was like, that's stupid. I'm shooting in auto and JPEG. And I don't know how to do all that fancy stuff. I don't have a fancy camera that can do all that stuff. But as I got better, I was like, he didn't steer me wrong. And I still took a lot of interesting input from him on different shots and different ways I could be shooting. I'll never forget him telling me to, like, he's like, I'm like, what could I shoot that nobody shot before? And he's like, I never see anybody shoot any film through extension tubes. And I was like, what's that? He's like, yeah, like hook a 600 millimeter up to extension tubes. And I was like, he's like, just look it up, you'll see what I mean. And it's like, you can focus right up to the front of a telephoto lens if you put extension tubes in between the sensor and the back of the lens, and you can get really close to stuff. So I started shooting really tight stuff of birds, intricate details of the feathers and their eyes and their bills and their feet and different, stuff like that, trying to find different cool shots that nobody ever shot before, which some of them I used, some of them I didn't, but it still taught me a lot about what my camera was capable of and what scenarios, just an expanded ever learning mindset. But reaching out to those people, that was the biggest thing that got me into it, because the further you start going down the rabbit hole, then it just starts having its own gravitational pull on you. You start developing people that are behind you and support you and want you to see you succeed, and they give you opportunities, and that really takes you to the next level, I think.
Yeah.
For anybody out there that's trying to start out.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, snowballing off of that, we'll get into what you're running, camera gear right now. Well, just tell us, your basic setup for your typical turkey hunt.
So my setup right now for a turkey hunt is I have a Sony FX9 that I purchased, I think not this past fall, the fall before. It's a great camera. It's not really what I wanted. I wanted an FX6 because it's a little smaller, but they're hard to get your hands on. So I have a 9. It's very similar to an FS7, except the color profiles are a little bit different, and it's sort of interesting how the camera works. It has a 6K sensor, and it downsamples to 4K, so it doesn't record in 6K. Like, it'll say that it has a 6K sensor, it doesn't record in 6K. It records up to 4K, but it's sampling from a 6K sensor, so it's basically taking the good pixels that, if you're familiar with how chroma subsampling works and how there's black and white pixels and color pixels, so you're getting a pretty rich images because it's pulling the color pixels, it's getting rid of grain and noise. You can shoot at stupid high ISOs. You can basically film in the dark with it.
Yeah, we have upwards of about 12 to 13 listeners at this point, so I'm willing to bet that most of them don't know what that is, but
Yeah, I'm not
But
gonna go too into detail with it. Like you can look that up on
yeah,
your
for
own time.
sure.
But I'll run an 70 to 200 with a 2-time teleconverter on it, and then I've got a set of Sony wireless mics. I have the dual receiver. They make one that you can. It's just one receiver, and you can bring in 2 channels of audio, which is kind of neat. Um, and I have one of them set up. So one of my input channels is a lav mic, on my Hunter, and the other one I will have an XLR cable in my vest. And when I'm not running, because that camera has 2 XLR inputs, like most cameras, broadcast cameras or whatever, if you have one of those expanders for your Sony, like A7 or whatever, uh, you have 2 XLR inputs. So I'll have my onboard camera mic, my shotgun, that'll be plugged in my camera when I'm walking around filming, whatever, walk around stuff in the truck, stuff, scouting stuff, whatever. When I get into the hunt, I'll unplug that and I'll plug my second channel in, and I have it's sort of like those little transmitters that you see that you plug that like the news people have when they're like down in a tornado or a hurricane or whatever, and they're standing out there and they're like talking to the camera. That mic in their hand has a transmitter on it, and so they make one of those you can plug into a shotgun mic, and we'll put that out in the decoys. And so I have 2 lines coming off that receiver. One of them is going to be the lav mic on the Hunter, and one of them is going to be the shotgun mic in the decoys.
Yeah, that's something that I've had a lot of people ask me. Um, when whether I'd be showing them videos of yours or whatnot. That really sticks out. That you know you can hear them spitting and drumming, and it just sounds like you're right on top of them. And I've had people ask me, how do they do that? And I knew you had did that. And I mean, that's the little things that you know
Yep.
takes a
You
lot
can see
more
it.
effort, but you know,
Yeah, you can see that. You can see the windscreen from it in a lot of in some of the videos. Some of the other ones you can't. The turkeys usually they don't get too weird about the windscreen. Sometimes I'll put a log or some cover up with sticks or some leaves or whatever, or I'll throw some leafy wear over it. And that actually came from, I started doing that because Jacob Patton, who's another videographer, photographer from Pennsylvania, I asked him how he was getting those great sounds. And he told me the way he was doing it was he was running an actual cable from wherever he was sitting all the way out there. And that's how they did it back in the day. They would run it from their beta cam or whatever they had. They would actually run a hard line with a mic out into the decoys or out in front of them that would come back to the camera. And that became kind of cumbersome. When I went to work for Zink, they kind of cut that learning curve off. I was like, no, we just got a transmitter. You plug it in and it runs to a receiver just like your lav mic does. So I've taken that a step further now, and a lot of times I'll run a shotgun mic out there, and I'll run it actually to like a Zoom H4 handy recorder, and I'll collect it in WAV audio or .wav, which is the uncompressed version of whatever audio, and that's just because I want that really intense drumming, and it doesn't always come through on a wireless radio connection or Bluetooth connection. However, your mics are communicating, the receiver bands, the transmitting bands, you're losing quality. So if you talk to musicians and stuff, that's why everything, guitars and stuff still has a cable, because the best way to transmit the signal is always through a cord.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'll put the actual recorder out there with the mic, and then I'll just pull the SD card, dump it in my folders, like all my footage, label it, and you have the gunshot, so you can go back and sync everything up pretty easy, because that should be a big. You're gonna be able to see it visually when you get into editing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's one thing that the average guy's probably not going to do, but that's the things that you take the extra time to do, and that's one thing that really makes your videos stand out from some other ones I've seen. So definitely like that. But
And if you like, for anybody listening that's just starting out, that's one way you can improve the quality of your videos instantly without actually improving your camera gear, because the audio is, if you put good audio along with like mediocre footage, it's gonna look better
Yeah, for sure.
instantly
Yeah,
because you got good quality audio.
especially
Whether hunter's
especially
mic'd up or
yep, especially with turkeys. I mean, turkey's all about sound. There's so many different sounds in the turkey woods, as opposed to in the whitetail world or something. It'd be kind of hard to throw a mic out there and hope that the buck grunted by it or whatever. But yeah, turkeys usually running decoys. It's pretty easy to get them in an area that you want, and that's definitely paying attention to the audio is a huge plus that adds quality.
Tyler, if a guy was gonna, I guess, dabble very quickly in, hey, I want to go out and, like you said, I want to go out and get some photography done. I want to do some video by himself. Simple hunt, simple gear. Like you said, audio is the most important. By all means, you got to have the great audio to go with it. It'll make, like you said, mediocre filming seem great. What's the best advice you could give to, someone just wants to go out there and get the best that they can get? What's the biggest advice you could give to somebody trying that out for the first time?
just be resourceful and don't be discouraged and ask for help. Like just ask people. Ask if you want to buy a new camera, ask somebody that does good work what they use. They'll probably tell you. Like don't be afraid to ask. And be resourceful. Like I'm talking about, a $3,500 mic setup, right? Now you can accomplish the same thing with $100 H1 handy recorder. You just put it out there, you click it, it's got built-in mics and stuff. Like you can do it with that. You can be resourceful and you can sample YouTube videos. You can sample like stock Smithsonian stuff from the government and attribute it in your YouTube video. You can sample that kind of stuff and put it in your video. And that costs you nothing other than a little bit of time and a Google search. Like you can find ways to circumvent having to buy stuff or how to actually having to collect it yourself. And is it as cool? Like, no, you can't stand up there and beat your chest and be like, oh yeah, but you can, and work with other creators, look over their shoulders, see what they're doing, and learn their toolkit, because the way you apply it is going to be different. They're never going to tell you like, hey man, you can't come, like Mike, you can't come watch me edit this photo in Photoshop, right? Like nobody that does this, whether it's professional, amateur, they're never going to tell you, no, you can't do that. They're going to say, hey man, yeah, well, like come check this out. This is how I use layer masks, or this is something cool that I figured out how to do. Or if you're working on something and they're good at it, ask them what they would do to be better at it, or what would they do to change the photo or the video, or ask for feedback. Like those are the kind of things that make you better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one thing I love about the hunting industry and the photography and video industry. There's hundreds and hundreds of people, and I've reached out to a few myself, and everybody's always, there's no competition. Everybody's willing to, tell you how they did this or how they did that, and makes everybody better, and makes you, strive to get better, I guess you should say too. So
So the moral of that is, case in point, work smarter, not harder. That's using your head, man. That's 100% using your head.
Tyler, tell us, if you had to pick, you've been on hundreds and hundreds of turkey hunts, I would say by now, and what would one of your favorite hunts be? And it doesn't even have to be turkeys, but just give us a quick little play-by-play of what you'd say was your favorite hunt.
So I think my favorite hunt of all time was, I filmed Rob Keck, who was the vice president of the National Wild Turkey Federation when they were doing a lot of the trapping and relocating. I filmed him shooting his entire winter world slam, so all 6 subspecies, but in the winter. And the 2 last birds he needed for that were both really cool. The Goulds in Arizona, and then the Ocellated in Mexico. And both those were really cool and special for a lot of different reasons. But the Mexican hunt was definitely, above and beyond all of it, because we killed a bird that, you hear about ocellateds in Mexico, and they were like shooting them at trees with spotlights and stuff at night and all this craziness.
Sounds like Pennsylvania all over
That's
again.
being resourceful
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah,
Maybe I've heard of that before.
Definitely working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. That's a common whitetail tactic
Yeah,
around
I was
our
going to
part.
say that's you find big bucks, you just hope that doesn't happen to them.
Yeah. So we went down there, and Manuel Enriquez, who runs El Halcon Outfitters, hosted us, and Rob brought down some decoys, some deception decoys. They had some feather flex decoys painted like oscillateds, and Montana strutter, like a pop up. They make Montana decoy makes those silhouettes that you can like fold up, and we went down there, and Manuel had begun this process of implementing, North American conservation methods of like food plotting and stuff to the Mexican jungle down there, which kind of blew my mind. He had his little, native Mexican guides that are like Mayan descendants. They were back in this jungle. I mean, it takes a whole day to get back to where you're going to hunt in the jungle on a little 2-track road in a little mini truck, like a little Mitsubishi or a Nissan, or, like a Toyota. You go way back in the jungle, and they've got a little stucco hut built that they've been living in a hammock, and they've cut holes in the jungle and burned all the trees around where the ocellated turkeys like to roost, and planted like the most beautiful, luscious clover plot that you've ever seen in the middle of the Mexican jungle. It's kind of crazy, but it's like 2 complete days of travel before you even get to hunt. And you get down there, and you're like, you've never seen a turkey hunt over a decoy for this thing before that you're going to hunt. And so from my standpoint, I was like, is this even going to work? Like, they had sounds preloaded on a megaphone, because they don't really make oscillated turkey calls. They kind of make a little bit of a different sound. Their gobbles different. I don't even know what sound the hens make, but they had gobbles preloaded on a megaphone. Like if you press the wrong button, it would be like a siren. And
Whoops.
yeah, and so like we're down there in the jungle. There's huge spiders, snakes hanging from trees, howler monkeys in the distance and stuff. And you're like, man, like the last thing you can picture is a turkey, and then you see them, and you're like, it's blue. Its head looks like a nerd's rope. It's completely different, the wrong color.
Yeah, it looks like a peacock, kind of.
Yeah, and you're like, but there is not a doubt in my mind. Nobody can convince me otherwise in any way, shape, or form that what's walking right there through this opening, that's a turkey. Like the way it walks, the way it's looking, the way it stops, just the pace of its walking, the tempo of its footsteps, like it's a turkey. And they come in and do their thing, and party around the decoys, and one gets shot, and it's got no beard, but it's got long spurs, and like the whole thing comes together. But just all that went into that, filming that first hunt of that subspecies over a decoy, that was my favorite. That was just super cool, because it was your normal turkey hunt, but the adventure that you had to go through to get there and be where that bird exists, and then see something that's just so recognizably turkey but not, was just really cool to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was hoping you would bring that up. I had a note down here to ask you about that, actually, but I remember seeing your posts on that, and I was like, man, he's hunting turkeys early. But yeah, that had to be an awesome experience, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, I would encourage anybody to go down there and do that once in their life. I mean, that was from the time I was a little kid. My grandfather, he was state chapter president of the National Turkey Federation in New York for a long time. And so like I've grown up in that culture. I was a lifetime member from the day I was born, but I was like a little kid, and he was toting me around to the national conventions and stuff, and like doing banquets and all that. And so like I had seen all that stuff as a kid, like in paintings, and the videos were just kind of coming around when I was little. And you would read the magazines or see pictures of the stuff, and it was just like, as a little kid being exposed to that, you just can't my grandfather wasn't really even a turkey hunter, so it wasn't like he was going all these places and hunting and seeing all this stuff. And my dad was a turkey hunter, but never hunted outside the state of New York. So like there was this whole, just vast unknown around me of, and I didn't even really know anybody that traveled and hunted them. So to me, I was just like, breaking out of that mold of just hunting 5 miles from the house and going out and seeing some of this stuff. To me, it was just like, man, like this is really cool. Like actually getting to see the myths and the legends and the folklore that you grew up around as a little kid, actually getting to go there and see that and experience that, to me was just like, that's where the passion comes from, the drive, like the inspiration to create is like, you know, having this conception in your head and like wondering all these things, the amount of wonder that's in your head and imagination. And you're like, 8 years old and you're like, man, I wonder if they sound different or they, the vegetation's different, like all those things that you wonder about your whole life. And then you finally get to go there and see that. That's what's truly inspirational, and that's what creates really good work, I think, in my opinion, because you're filming all those things that you always wondered about, so that everything is interesting to you. There's lots of interesting shots and creative ways to capture those types of things. And from the other standpoint, if you ever wanted to go do that, like there's no time like the present. Like it's not that expensive. It's way cheaper than going to like Africa or something. It's a huge adventure. Like you can't even imagine the amount of adventure that's packed into that little 10-pound, jungle dwelling turkey with no beard. Like it is small. It's a small animal, but the adventure is huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Tyler, we're coming up on time here, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit about your career and everything, and certainly looking forward to what you guys are doing, in the future here. We'll be following along on the webpage and the YouTube channel, and why don't you just tell everybody where they can find all of you guys' work this year?
Okay, guys. So if you want to check out our calls or our videos, you can follow us on Instagram at Cartel Custom Calls, on Facebook under Cartel Custom Calls, or on YouTube at Cartel Custom Calls. And you can find all of our products on our Shopify online store, which would be cartel-custom-calls.myshopify.com. Everything's up there. And if you use code BangLand, all caps, just BANGLAND, like gangland, but BangLand, you'll get 10% off.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, guys.
Well, yeah, like I
Thanks
said,
for having me on.
appreciate you stopping by here, and we'll be looking forward to seeing some turkeys now here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, guys.
All
Have
right.
fun. Don't get buried in snow.
No,
Not
we
yet.
won't.
Not yet.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I told you
That old boy has got
he's got some
dude. He's got a
experience
library
under his belt.
That old boy's, you can just tell the person that it's like you first talk to him and you say, "Hey, can you describe this?" And they almost want to say, "Well, how much do you want to know?"
Yeah.
Because I could be here for 6 years telling you everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they just hit the cliff notes,
We don't have enough time in a day to
No.
tell all the stories he's got. But like I said, he's one of those guys that I've, looked up to, even though he's 2 years younger than me. I look up to everybody because I'm so short. But,
listen, time
out.
Just, whoa.
But
he's saying about turning 30 in here shortly.
Yeah.
Brother, I'm 41, man. Give me a break.
But, I've been following Tyler's stuff for, years now, and he does amazing work with the camera. And, there's been many a times where I've texted him and said, "Hey, man, how'd you do that?" And, much like a lot of other photographers in the industry, they're more than willing to, call you or text you, 20 minutes worth of how-to stuff. So, it's definitely
it's a whole
cool
industry wide. Like you said, it's like the guy that wants to know.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? They just don't respond.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Exactly.
And it's like the archery world is the same way.
Oh yeah.
Everybody sees, on Instagram and Facebook and all these people, shooting this and that. If you got a setup question,
Yeah.
ask them. Guess
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Guess what? How many conversations have I had to Tim Gillingham and Chance Bobauf and
Yep.
Nathan Brooks and all those guys? And it's like, they're like, I can't believe you got that from them. I'm like,
Yeah.
just ask.
Yeah, they're all just people
That's what
too.
they do, But they
just-
do it 24/7.
Yep.
365. They live it.
Yeah. And most of those people, that's why they're in that.
That's it.
Career
Tyler's-
or profession, because they love
That's it.
what they do and they, love talking about it. So, yeah, everybody definitely check out BangLand. This is a series on the Cartel Custom Calls YouTube page, and I've been showing people their footage for a while, and they're definitely one of the
He's got it figured out. He is
top
he's
shows
definitely-
that I prefer to watch. I mean, they got some epic footage, and being from a cameraman background, I love seeing that camera work. So definitely check them out, and I think we're about out of time today, so
Sounds
we're
good
gonna
to me.
catch you guys on the next one.
Have a good one.